Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode in our Meet the Ventures series for the BLab 2020 cohort. Today, we're here with Monara founder Jessica Zhu. So, to start us off, Jessica, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Jessica Zhu, and I'm from Beijing, China. And I just graduated from Brown exactly 2 months ago. It is crazy. It's also a crazy year to be graduating. And I studied cognitive neuroscience.
Well, congratulations on graduating. So, why don't you tell me a little bit more about your startup, Monara?
Yeah, sure. So Monara aims to prepare and support growth through the transition to puberty, and in particular, the starting of menstruation or the first period. Yeah, so we are designing different products, services to support growth through this potentially awkward, difficult, confusing time in their lives.
Well, that is a noble pursuit that encompasses half of the world's population, right? So, at what point did you know you wanted to work on this as your own startup?
So yeah, so there was actually a pretty important pivot 3 weeks into B Lab. When I first applied to B Lab, I was applying using this idea of premenstrual symptom management, which is I work on that through the Social Innovation Fellowship through the Swire Center in my senior year. So I wanted to explore whether it can, and in Social Innovation Fellowship, I mainly approach this through like a community-based like social innovation lens. But I really wanted to see whether it can be seen through a business lens. So whether I can basically turn it into a venture. But 3 weeks into B Lab, I realized that I don't know, just through user interviews and just thinking about it more, I realized that a lot of things that people are telling me was regarding to premenstrual symptom management is they didn't get enough education and information and resources. And people kept telling me, "Oh, I wish I know about this during my like K-12 education, or somebody has told me this earlier." Which was why I realized, okay, education and providing resources and support is a very important aspect. And which is why I pivot into this preparing for puberty kind of direction.
And why is this problem so important?
First of all, it's a experience. Well, I'm specifically working on girls or female identifying teenagers, and it's half of the world's population. And I think, as I said, I want to start with the first period. So this is the first thing I'm tackling in terms of supporting girls. And I just think that from my own experience, it was a very memorable event. I don't know, through talking to you, I know it was a very memorable event for you too, more like in the awkward and negative sense. And in fact, that's very common. I read a research paper and it says 50% of American women, when they think back to their first period, they feel like they were totally unprepared. And I just you asked why is it probably important. I just feel like it is not something that like should be a negative experience. Like first, it's just a perfectly normal biological event. I always say like if our moms didn't get their period, we wouldn't even be here. So there's really like it can be seen as a positive. It should be a positive thing. It's something that's we're celebrating. Like it's growing up. It's just a normal process that needs to be appreciated. Yeah, I think it just personally really close to my heart. I just think that it should be a beautiful event. It should be a positive experience for girls.
I more than 100% agree. It can be traumatizing, and we definitely do not want that. So, tell me a little bit more about who is your target market?
Yeah, so I'm thinking about starting with uh hold on. Who is okay, start over. Who is my target market? Yeah, so my end users, so people who will actually be using my product and services are preteen and teenage girls. So I'm thinking about girls age from 8 to 16, which in the US is 20 million of a like total market size. But my customers, so people who will actually like buy these products, I'm thinking parents and in particular moms. And I think at the beginning I want to target urban working class mom who craves quality time with their daughters, and think that they or feel like they're unprepared but is looking for resources and support. And another way I'm thinking about marketing my product is through selling it directly to private institutions, so private schools, family doctor practices, and places like that.
And what or who inspires you in your business?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I first got interested in period education. Maybe I think it was through actually my aunt and my cousin, because I was on this hiking trip with my aunt and my cousin and like my extended family, and I was on my period the other like that day, and so I was like telling my aunt, be like, like maybe I should not like be hiking, whatever, whatever. And I used the phrase like it means like older aunt in like Chinese. I know in American they call it like aunt flow, whatever, but I use a phrase like that to try to like indicate that it was my period. But my cousin didn't know that. And my cousin know like really little about periods. And so she was just like super confused. She was like, what? Like, is there a aunt visiting us or hiking with us later? Blah, blah, blah. And so we thought it was cute and interesting, but my aunt like panicked because my aunt suddenly realized that she hadn't been talking to my cousin about it. And my aunt just like later she told me that like she didn't know how to start the conversation, like what exact words to use. And so my aunt actually asked me to explain period and reproductive system to my cousin. And so I just remember, so we were hiking, right? I just remember in like the like hostel, I was just like drawing like diagrams, and like trying to, I don't know, just explain everything in a accessible, age friendly way. And I started to talk about my first period and all those like flashbacks of like worries in middle school and like struggles and like awkward moments just all came back to me. And I think that was the moment that I realized, okay, like this is very interesting. Like I want every girl my cousin's age to feel prepared and not go through the awkward incidents that I have experienced.
I agree. No one should have a bad experience with their period, especially not their first one. So, what are you working on right now to tackle that issue?
So I don't know when is this podcast going to be published, but today is the day before the last day of VLab, the second to last day of VLab. It's crazy. So tomorrow we're going to have this bear slayer, which is a bear version of Shark Tank. If our listeners didn't know about that. And so today I'm going to continue to prepare my pitch deck, and I'm practicing later in an hour with my mentor Hamza. And I think the rest of today is just going to be thinking through the logic and preparing for some potential questions. But I guess other than that, what I'm working on right now is okay. So the first product that I want to design is a guided journal that focuses on health and well-being, like targeting teenage girl, of course. So I'm in the process of laying out all the content. So before like thinking about organizing and design, and like I'm actually having a meeting with like a designer and like publishing person this weekend to talk about it. But before that, I'm right now in the process of just fleshing out the content that I want to be in this guided journal.
Well, that definitely sounds exciting, and we'll be sure to keep an eye out for the pamphlet coming out soon. So, tell me a little bit more about something surprising that has happened so far in the development of Monara.
Pricing. I think the pivot was something I now look back, I'm really glad that I did that pivot. But at the time, it was a little scary because it was also the same time that my like previous co-founder. So I started actually with a co-founder whose name is Yuna Trey, who's my friend at Amherst College. And she was like on board because previously I was working on this PMS symptom management project, which is what she's super interested in. She has personal experience. But then I think 2 weeks into B Lab, she realized that she has a lot of other commitments and like personal difficulties. And so she decided that she will not be continuing B Lab. And that was also the week where I was like, maybe I should pivot because I've been hearing like, I don't know, just feel kind of stuck on the previous ideas and didn't get a lot of like positive like customer needs during my interviews. And so you asked me like what is something surprising? I think it surprised me like how the pivot actually happened.
And seeing as how B Lab is basically done, how did B Lab help you achieve success for Monara?
Yeah, I actually really want to talk about that because I'm just like super grateful to have this opportunity because I just graduated and I think like one of my biggest regrets at Brown is I never get a chance to take any engine like entrepreneurship classes, which is weird because I think I'm like very interested in this. I went to a lot of Nelson Center events like Founder Fridays, but for some reason I just never get the chance to take an ending class. And I feel like B Lab really saved me from that regret because I feel like, yeah, I'm like meeting all those amazing Nelson Center people. Like we're having all of these like amazing like in-house sessions to learn about the like the basics of starting a venture and all of these like really amazing guest speakers. I feel like it really like saves me my from that regrets. Like even though I graduated, I think that's the even more amazing part of it. It's like wow, I'm still learning through Brown the summer after I graduated, and I think it was just a perfect opportunity and perfect experience.
Well, I'm glad B Lab was an enjoyable experience for you. I know I also had loads of fun meeting everyone. So, is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we move on to our final question?
Yeah, I think going along the like I'm so grateful about Brown thought, I think like participating in B Lab and working on Monara after graduation is really a Brown thing to do. I once heard a Brown alum said that like Brown is just a place to how to say it, like study what you like, make it your career, and ideally help some people along the way. And I really feel like B Lab and working on Monara really like tied up many things in my undergrad career. So it really connected a lot of dots. Like I know I'm interested in health and well-being, but through like an academic and like brain science and cognition and well-being perspective. But it's good to connect that with a venture I'm working on. And I had a lot of experience working with kids and teenagers at Brown. Actually, I worked as a summer RA for the summer at Brown, but the middle school summer at Brown, I think it's called the STEM program. So it's like younger kids, and I really like that. I did that my first summer, and my junior summer, I took an internship at Boston Children's Hospital, and so it was also like pediatrics, and I just think like working with kids is amazing. And I've also been interested in like innovation, be going to like Nelson Center events, and I've taken class like such as like UI UX. At first, I thought it was just a random class I'm interested in, but right now, as I'm designing the journal and the website and everything, I'm like, wow, I'm really using things I learned from that class. So I think I'm just really happy that the summer after graduation, stuck at Providence, I'm able to like tie all of these things together. Yeah, that's something I want to share.
Well, I'm really glad Brown is still in you. Well, at least the spirit of Brown is still in you. So, for our final question, what is the latest TV show you've been binging this summer?
Oh my god, don't laugh at me, but I've been watching Gilmore Girls. I know it's like super old. Like, have you heard of it?
Of
The
course, of course,
Gilmore
of course,
Girls?
of course.
Yeah, okay. First, I've never heard of it before. I don't know why. And I guess like, oh, if I didn't talk about that earlier, like I'm an international student. And so I came to the US for Brown or like beginning of round. And I don't know, I just like never heard of that show, but I it was on my recommended list on Netflix, and I started it. I thought it was fascinating, because my I also like my mom is also a single mom. We are great friends, and so I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. And I'm thinking like, every time I watch it, I was like, when I go back to China, I'm gonna watch that again with my mom.
Well, thanks, Jessica, for tuning in and for sharing so much with me. This has been an amazing interview. And I just wanted to thank the listener, too, for tuning in to another episode in our Meet the Venture series for the BLab 2020 cohort. Today has been another episode where we learned more about Monara. And we hope to see you next week.